just a little bit of housekeeping, um, a little bit of history. If you've never attended a Thrive Series program before, the Thrive Series is a collaboration between the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota and mHealth Fairview. And we are so proud to bring this 6-week series starting today, and the last session ends on March 9th. So the next 6 Tuesdays on topics that were curated by you. We sent out a survey last fall asking folks what kind of topics they would like covered. And we were able to put together this wonderful series based on your responses. So thank you so much. And we're excited to share that if you attend all 6 sessions of the winter series, we are excited to provide you with a Goldie versus Cancer t-shirt. And you'll see these t-shirts featured on a lot of our speakers throughout this series. So mark your calendars, Tuesdays, 6 o'clock now through March 9th. We will be recording tonight's session and every session so that you're able to refer back to it and check in on any tips or tricks or information that you want to find again. We do edit every recording before we post it to ensure everyone's privacy. So tonight, we will hear from Chef Jeremy and Megan, our nutritionist, on how to make a nutritious meal and learn some of the science behind making those good choices at the dinner table. So just once again, if you haven't already, I want everyone to locate your mute button and your chat button, which are usually located on the bottom of your screen. And you should be able to see where those are located from the slide that's currently showing. So we do ask you to mute yourself during the presentation. If we catch any background noise, we'll mute you so that we don't interrupt the session. But feel free to enter and text using the chat button if you have any comments or questions throughout the presentation. And then at the very end, we'll invite you to unmute yourself and you can vocalize any additional questions during the Q&A portion. So without further ado, I'm going to turn off my camera here and we will let Jeremy and Megan take it away. So thank you guys all again for being here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Green, registered dietitian and certified personal trainer here at mHealth Fairview Ways to Wellness. Thanks for joining us today. And I have Chef Jeremy Reinecke here with me, who will be jumping in a little bit to teach this class with me today. So thanks for being part of this cancer survivorship program. So tonight, our class is going to focus on recommendations for nutrition and physical activity related to cancer survivors. And the main focus, though, will be cooking along with Chef Jeremy for this delicious meal and learning some really good tips and techniques as we go through, and then talking about nutrition related to the food. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit of information with you. And I know that we have a variety of you on here who maybe are at all different spots of cancer treatment or survivorship, and just know that I think you'll hopefully learn something that will apply to you. I know that you will from this, and that I'm open to questions, of course, after too. So, does food matter? I used to work in oncology as a dietitian, and I would get this question all the time. You know, does my nutrition really matter? And the answer is yes. Nutrition is super powerful for our health, right? It makes a big impact on our cells and our body and how we feel. And so according to Nutrition Journal, an estimated 30 to 40% of all cancers can actually be prevented by lifestyle and dietary measures alone. And so that's a really pretty significant number there. And so we know that what we're putting into our bodies will make a difference. And so there's certain factors related to nutrition, our weight, the nutrient density of what you're eating, the amount of sugar or processed sugars, refined products. If we're not getting enough fiber, that can make an impact. And then getting healthy omega-3 and omega-6 balance, which is the anti-inflammatory fats. And the meal tonight will have some anti-inflammatory fats in it. And so we will definitely call those out when we're there. And then I just wanted to mention potential side effects from cancer treatment. And so again, this could be that you're currently going through or just finishing up with treatment, or these could be something that are lasting a few months after. You might be underweight or overweight related to things that went on with treatment, feeling fatigued, maybe you don't have your sense of taste back fully, or it's different now, difficulty chewing or swallowing, feel like you lost a lot of muscle, or you have different changes in bowel movements. And if you never think about that, I want you to start thinking about that, because that is a big, important part of our health. The guidelines for cancer survivors that we're going to focus on today are from the American Cancer Society. The first one is to engage in regular physical activity. That could mean a variety of things. Everybody's on a different level with that, but we'll take a look at some examples and ideas. Number 2 is to achieve and maintain a healthy weight. We know that that's important for more than just cancer, and can make a big difference on our health overall. And then achieve a dietary pattern that is high in vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. And so we'll take a deeper look at that. With that, I'm going to pass it back or over to Chef Jeremy and let him get you started in the kitchen.
All right. Thank you, Megan. And thank each of you for joining us tonight or today as well, you guys. Chef Jeremy here, and we're going to run through a delicious, nutritious meal that anyone can do in your own kitchen. So everything that I write, you guys, all the recipes there, I use simple, easy to find ingredients is always my goal. And then simple and easy methods as well, while keeping it as, nutrient packed as we possibly can, but as flavorful and delicious and enjoyable as it can be as well. And that is really important, you guys, because if we don't enjoy our food, we're very unlikely to end up continuing on, with the lifelong journey with those healthy foods, right? So with that, we're gonna get started. Today, you guys, we're gonna make a hazelnut crusted salmon with zucchini noodles and a savory tomato jam. And we will talk about in a little bit greater detail about all of those things. But in order to get this dish done today, I'm taking over here a little bit early because I want to get the tomato jam started. Okay, that's the piece of this meal that's going to take the longest. It's a very flavorful, very rich sort of condiment, if you will. It's sort of the ancestor, maybe, if that's the right word, right, to ketchup, sort of. So if you like ketchup or those kinds of things, you're going to love this, and it's going to be, again, much more natural, preservative, artificial preservative, artificial colors free. Okay, so we're going to start off with that, you guys. I'm going to start off, we're going to do a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. We'll talk more about oils as we move through tonight, but this is a good place to use extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to do about a tablespoon here. You can certainly measure as well if you want to. You have the exact, precise increments in your recipes or in your toolkits or your packets that you've got previous to this. But if I'm not going to measure, for the most part, whenever I add fat to a pan, it's either going to be just enough to lightly coat the pan or just enough to lightly coat the food that I put in it. I'm going to put a little bit of heat on my pan now, just enough, probably as low as it goes, just to start heating it up. And now we're going to run through the rest of our prep. Okay, so if you are cooking along, you guys, I would pull all of these ingredients together, and we're going to go over them really quickly now, so that if you are missing an ingredient, you can get it pulled out and get it ready to go. We have the olive oil. I have my medium saucepan here. I have an onion. I have a few actually cloves of garlic, and this is the next thing I want to talk to you about really quickly. Always read through the entire recipe before you begin. One of the reasons is I need 2 cloves for this dish right here, but I need another clove when we saute the zucchini. I never want to cut things or prep things 2 times, right? So I'm going to prep the garlic 1 time, and then I'll separate it. Again, streamlining processes. If you're new to cooking, or you've always hated it, or it takes forever, there are things that we can do to modify your approach and make it more enjoyable, make it easier, make it safer, and make it more efficient as well. Okay, so I have my garlic, then I have a 1/2 teaspoon measure and a 1 teaspoon measure along with my thyme. The recipe calls for fresh thyme. I'm gonna swap out dry thyme. When you do that, you can certainly do that with about any herb. When you do, if you're going from fresh to dry, you want to actually cut that quantity about in half. Dried herbs have about twice the flavor. They're much more intensely flavored when measured by volume, because the moisture is gone, they're dry, they become smaller. Okay, same is true of the reverse. If a recipe calls for dry, you want to use fresh because you grew it in your garden. Absolutely do that. Double it. Okay, really easy conversion there. I have some Dijon mustard. I have my salt box. Salt should always, you guys, be in a well like this, and I always recommend kosher salt as well. It functions better and it's larger crystals, so you're less likely actually to over season or over salt. The fine ground salts you can barely see in the air as you're seasoning, and you can hardly see them on the food. Almost impossible to be very accurate with those fine grind salts. I have a little bit of sugar here. We'll talk more about sweeteners in just a minute. Your recipe asks for brown sugar. I'm going to use this organic coconut palm sugar here. I like to be as natural as possible with my sweeteners when I do decide to use them. I have 5 tomatoes here as well. And then I have a lemon, which we're going to juice in there as well. And those are going to be the pieces that we need for this first step before we hand it back to Megan. So oil is preheating, and I'm just going to run right down through my ingredients. So I line them. Not only do I pull them out together, but then I line them up in the order in which they're going to go in my pan. Okay. So for my onion, really simple here, you guys. We're going to cut off both ends. The scraggly little root end, we take a bit, enough to expose the rings. That is the pointy end. Okay, the scraggly little root end, that end we just barely shave. Just take that guy off, leaving that core intact. And that's going to help us process the rest of this onion. So I'm going to set it down on my flat side. And with my knife, I'm going to go right straight through the center of that core, leaving half of that core on each side. Now is the time to peel it. Don't peel it before you take it in half, or it's maddening, right? You can end up wanting to pull your hair out. It is not fun. But once it's taken in half, I've got all these wonderful edges that I can grab onto and peel super duper easily. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just dice this guy. How exactly you dice this isn't really important for this dish in particular, because we're going to cook this and cook it and cook it, and all of the veggies are going to sort of melt in this thing. Okay. So just make them smaller. I'm going to do just sort of a medium dice on here. You could just slice them and add them in here too. Again, since we're cooking it for a longer period of time, and some people, even with this recipe, they like to puree it with like an immersion blender, a food processor, or even a regular blender. You can certainly do that. I personally, my preference is to not do that. I like it a little bit kind of chunky. I like that kind of body. Onion is diced, and that's going to go right into our oil. Now, I said we were going to talk more about oil as we move through today, you guys. The oils that we use, it's important to understand how the cooking method impacts the oil, right? Extra virgin olive oil is it's a dainty little thing, right? It can, if it's exposed to a high heat, it's going to burn, denature, become not a good thing. All right. So we're using a low heat today. So either no heat, like in a sauce, or maybe a vinaigrette or a marinade, or something where you are cooking it very sort of slowly, right? Over a low to medium heat. I want to hear a little sizzle, just a little bit of a sizzle. Everybody asks me, well, but it says simmer on my knob. I don't care, right? I don't care what the knob says, you guys. It's all about what's going on here, which is why we need to build these skills that we can identify what's happening in the pan. Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right? So I want to hear, I want to see, I want to smell a little sizzle. Adjust it however you need to in order to maintain that gentle sizzle. All right. So for our garlic, then we're going to take these garlic cloves. I just use the heel of my hand here, and then just give them a slight crush. You don't need to go crazy, just a slight crush until you hear that little crack, and that's the paper cracking, and then it peels incredibly easy. Okay, just a little bit. I don't like to, if you do go a little crazy on it, maybe you had a bad day, I don't know, right? If you do, smash it a little hard, it's gonna kind of come apart on you, a little bit, or it's likely to, not the end of the world. But it doesn't need to. You don't need to smash it that hard. Just enough to that crack. The paper, again, is broken, and I can peel it super duper easy. Boom, 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 just like that. And then all we're gonna do, you guys, I'm not gonna take this off. This is the first thing all my clients wanna do. They wanna cut that guy off, and I don't know why. I don't know what that thing did to everybody, right? Leave that on. We're gonna use that as a little handle to hold on to it as we process the rest of the garlic. So all we're gonna do today is just slice it thinly. It says chop, but just slicing it thinly is gonna work just fine for all of the applications today. There we go. And there is that tiny little handle. It served its purpose. It can now go away. Next tip for you, you guys, is this little bowl right here. This is my trash bowl or my trim bowl. If you, in your kitchen, if you don't have a trash can right near where you're working, have a trim bowl handy. And it's just a medium mixing bowl, right? And have that there so you can easily place your trimmings in there without running back and forth to the trash can 15 times, right? All right, so we gave the onions a little bit of a jump start, and that's what we want to do. Garlic is much more delicate than onion, so we will always want to hold that off a little bit before, or give the onion a little jump start before we add the garlic. And now again, we need this 2 times today, so I'm going to add about half of this garlic to the pan right here, reserving the other half for the next dish. And again, I don't have to cut it again, right? That piece of prep is already done. So garlic has gone in. We're going to give that a little toss. Yeah. Oh, and already it's starting to smell absolutely incredible. As I said, we're going to use this dry thyme in place of the original, the fresh thyme that I tested this recipe with. So we're going to cut that quantity in half, just like that. We're going to get that in there. And we're just going to go ahead and get everything in here, you guys. We're going to get our Dijon in here. You could use any mustard you wanted to. There we go. Beautiful. Get all of that in there. Then we're going to do our salt. I'm going to use about 1/2 teaspoon. You can always scale it back, you guys. The salt, I would not eliminate salt entirely from your dish if you're cooking from scratch with whole fresh foods. They have, fresh from scratch, whole fresh foods have very little naturally occurring sodium in them. The problem we run into with salt is when we're consuming the boxed, the bagged, the powdered, the frozen thing, where some dude's in a factory pulling levers, adding buckets of salt to your food. That's where we run into an issue. A little bit of salt in the food that we're cooking at home generally is not most people's problems. Now, I'm never going to tell you you must use salt, but again, very important that you enjoy this food, right? And using at least a little bit, just a little bit, is a good way to ensure that you're going to enjoy it. And of course, my little disclaimer, none of my advice is meant to take the place of the advice of your healthcare provider either. So we're going to stir this up. Oh, it's looking absolutely incredible already, you guys. We're getting a little bit of browning, a little bit of caramelization on there. Look at that. Beautiful. I hope you're cooking along at home. Hope, hope, hope. All right. We're going to add a little bit of this organic palm sugar here as well. And I'm going to do a teaspoon. Now, again, you can, I like to, when I do cook with a sweetener, I like it to be as natural, as minimally processed as possible. I like this one. I don't add a lot of it ever. The sugar will kind of balance out a little bit of the acidity that we're going to get from the lemon, the Dijon, and the tomato. Now, if you are on a very low carb diet, and I think Megan is going to talk a little bit more about this in a second, and we know sugar is, sweeteners are a pro-inflammatory food. So again, minimize. If you need to eliminate, you can certainly do that with this recipe. Always feel free to modify them to better suit you. All right. No chef or no author, honestly, should ever be like insulted if you modify their recipes a little bit to better suit your needs. Next, we're moving on to the tomatoes here, you guys. Vine ripe tomatoes are the best. They continually ripen if they're still connected to the vine. Once they are removed from the vine, they do not ripen nearly as well. So I always am gonna grab for the vine ripened tomatoes. Now we're gonna come in here. I know the recipe says to peel them. I've done this both ways. If time is an issue, leave the skins on. Don't worry about peeling them. It consumes a lot of time. So what I'm gonna do, you can use a paring knife. Otherwise, I just get up nice and high on my blade here. We're gonna come in and we're gonna remove the little stems here. Looking good. And I just kind of, again, dance around that stem. My knife goes in at an angle slightly underneath it to remove that guy. Otherwise, some people would leave that in there. I don't know. I feel like there's a chance that it's not going to break down and it's going to be woody, and I don't want that for this dish. So we're just going to remove. We'll have a tiny little bit of trim waste here, and then we're just going to chop these up. Again, they're going to cook so long that they're going to kind of melt. So I'm going to cut them in half. Each half, I'm going to quarter. That's it. Boom, 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 into the pan. Yeah. Now I got some sizzle going on, you guys. Who doesn't love the sizzle? It's like the best part of cooking, isn't it? Hearing, seeing, smelling the sizzle. All right. Get them all in there. We sometimes, for certain recipes, I'll remove the excess seeds and juice. This is not one of those recipes. I want all that juice, all that liquid, all that tomato has to offer is going into this. Beautiful. All right, so now we added a bunch of product to our pan as well. So as I'm listening, my sizzle has gone way down. It's almost gone, but it says simmer. Turn that heat up, okay? Turn the heat up here just a second to bring that back to a simmer. If it ain't simmering or sizzling, I always say, if it's not doing that, it's not cooking, all right? It's just kind of sitting there, hanging out. And again, the reason we got this started, you guys, early in our presentation tonight is because I want this to have time to cook. So this cooks quite a while. If I had the time, I'd probably even cook this for over an hour, maybe even an hour and a half, nice and low and slow. You can cook it as long as you want. The longer you cook it, the more moisture is going to go away and the more thick and decadent it's going to become. And then we're just going to use a little dollop right on top of our beautiful fish. Lemon, I'm going to juice that in there as well real quickly here. Oop, flip that over. Yeah. I'm just doing half a lemon. All right. And then we're going to simmer. Let that guy simmer away. After this, when you guys come back to me, we're gonna get our fish working. So we're gonna make this little hazelnut crust for the top of the fish. We're gonna fire that guy into the oven at 425. If you're cooking along right now, you guys preheat that oven to 425. Use the convection if you've got it. If you don't have convection, you'll be fine. But if you have it, use it. It's just gonna cook more evenly and more quickly. And with that, I'll hand it back to Megan.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'm going to share my screen here and we'll just go through those 3 recommendations in a little bit more detail, and then we'll get back to the kitchen. So, okay, so first we have guideline number 1. And guideline number 1 is engaging in regular physical activity. And so I know that our focus here is nutrition tonight, but this is definitely something just to be aware of, because it maybe sounds a little bit intimidating, but it's actually, if you break it down, it's totally doable. So what they recommend is aiming to exercise at least 150 minutes per week. And when I first heard that, again, I thought 150 minutes, that's quite a bit. But if you break it down to 7 days, that's only 20 minutes a day, right? So if you can try to find 20 minutes of each day to get in some regular exercise, you're going to be meeting that recommendation. And then the other part of it is including strength training at least 2 days per week. And remember that strength training doesn't have to be, heavy lifting. And really, depending on where you're at and how you're feeling right now, please don't do the heavy lifting. Let's start with just body weight movements and things that you enjoy. And so that's what I want you to keep in mind as a theme this whole time is adding in things that you enjoy to eat, and then adding in movement that you enjoy doing. these are actually some or lists that came from the recommendation, and the moderate activities, you can see it says I can talk while I do them, but I can't sing. And so these are great things to start with if you're not very active right now, especially. But hey, these aren't super easy. These are going to be a good challenge. I love this ballroom and line dancing. You could do this in your living room, right? General gardening, depending on the time of the year, or maybe there's some indoor plants that you have and just taking care of those. That can actually end up being active. Sports, using your wheelchair, using hand cyclers, walking briskly, and water aerobics. So again, a good variety, and I love that category. You know, dancing could just be turn on your favorite playlist or music and dance around the house, and that can add that activity. And then there's the vigorous activity. So you can see those examples where you might get your heart rate up a little bit, jump rope, walking, jogging, running, faster paced sports. And so I definitely want you to kind of reflect on where you're at with this, and just maybe you want to start with regular activity each day, and don't overdo it, but then slowly increase either the amount of time or the intensity based again on your doctor's recommendations too. We want to avoid any all or nothing thinking. So it doesn't have to be necessarily an hour of intense exercise to count. It can be 20 minutes of dancing around the house, and that counts. Okay. Guideline number 2 is achieving and maintaining a healthy weight. And what I want to focus on for a healthy weight is really keeping it basic and thinking about the macronutrients. I get asked a lot about macros. How much should I have of carbs or protein or fat? And are carbs bad? Is fat bad? And the answer to both of those questions is no. We need carbohydrates, we need protein, we need fat, and we need water, of course. And those are the 4 macronutrients. Our focus with weight is making sure that we're getting balanced meals and snacks. And that's going to help with balancing our blood sugars. That's going to help with having good energy. And so you can see there's a picture there of a roller coaster, and that's just referring to that kind of roller coaster of energy we can get if we have a lot of processed food or simple sugars and we don't have enough protein, fat, or fiber with it. Think about if you have ever had like a donut for breakfast, and I love a donut every now and then, don't get me wrong. But if you have that by itself, about 20 to 30 minutes later, it's really easy to start craving another one, or to feel like we're hungry again, and that can be related to that energy rush we get, and then kind of a crash that we can feel where we're tired or hungry pretty shortly after. And so we want to make sure that at every meal and snack, you're getting color, protein, and fat. And that color is going to be a nutrient-dense carbohydrate. And so we'll look at some examples of that. So first, looking at carbohydrates, we're not just getting carbohydrates from sources like bread and pasta, and pizza. Those are the ones that we think of all the time. But we get carbohydrates in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, and dairy products too. This list is showing you some ideas and examples for where you want to plan those carbohydrates in. It's important that we're getting high fiber carbohydrates in, again, to help with weight, our gut, energy, and feeling full. So this chart here, which gives you some ideas of the higher fiber carbohydrates to really focus in on and think about adding to your day. And so I want you to just take a look at this, and if a food pops out at you that you like, put that on the list to add in and to plan in to your week. And then the second macronutrient is protein. We know protein is helpful for muscle, skin, hair, our cells. You probably heard a lot about protein as you might have been going through, if you were going through treatment, just to help with maintaining muscle. And again, we need everything to maintain muscle, carbs, protein, fat, but you likely have thought about protein a little bit more. But the category on there that a lot of people don't think about is that plants, besides beans and legumes and nuts and seeds, give you protein too, and that like vegetables are actually going to give you a little bit of protein as well. And then healthy fats. And so this is a question that I get a lot. Should I be eating fat-free or sugar-free, or cutting out this and that? And my answer is no. We want to be eating fats, but getting them from the anti-inflammatory fat sources. And so really just choosing the healthier fats. And so our focus is on the omega-3 fatty acids. And this is something that if you have lost a little bit of muscle, as you're starting to eat more, omega-3 fatty acids can help with that, maintaining the muscle mass. And if you haven't tried any of the seeds, I definitely recommend getting some and just adding like a tablespoon or less to start out with to oatmeal or smoothie, yogurt. Okay, so just to review, we have physical activity. You need 150 minutes per week or 20 minutes per day. Dance in the living room, walk outside. It doesn't have to be high intensity interval training all the time, unless you really enjoy that already. Number 2 guideline is achieving and maintaining a healthy weight. The exercise piece will help with that. But the focus tonight for that was really macronutrients, getting color, protein, fat, every meal and snack, and then a protein and a fat source planned in again at every meal and snack. And snacks are a big one. A lot of the time with snacks, we might just be grabbing something quick. If we're already starving, a lot of the time it's like, what's in the cabinet, right? And there's not a lot of fresh stuff usually in a cabinet, or what's in the fridge that's already washed and chopped and ready. And so definitely think about how to prepare those things ahead of time. But we want to make sure to have that protein and fat also planned in. And then the 3rd guideline is achieving a dietary pattern that is high in vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. And so we refer to this as really a protective eating pattern. So it's protecting your body and your health, and not necessarily meaning that you should only eat plants, but it's plant forward. And that's a term you'll probably hear more of. Plant forward just means that that's kind of your foundation of what you're eating. I'm a visual learner, and so I put this in there for the visual learners, but this is the healthy eating plate. When you're looking at your meals, try to get at least half your plate to be full of vegetables and fruits. The whole grains, of course, less processed, and then a quarter of the plate healthy protein sources. And that's really going to be a healthy eating pattern. And so why do we care about the pattern? It's associated with an increased overall survival following diagnosis and treatment of cancer. And these nutrients in the foods act synergistically. And so we can't just eat these one day and then not eat them for a month. We want to be continually eating these foods and getting a variety of them. We know that food is going to be better than supplements. And then the cruciferous vegetables in particular are great because they help with proper elimination of toxins from our body. And that's helpful to keep in mind with cancer and survival, right? So the goal for cancer survivors is to get 2 to 3 cups of vegetables per day and 1.5 to 2 cups of fruits per day. And if you're getting more than this, that's okay too. If you already get 3 cups of vegetables or more, great. No need to decrease. And then lastly, I just wanted to share before we turn back to the kitchen is consistency is key, and to again avoid that all or nothing thinking. So taking action is the best thing you can do. You want to just start with where you're at and choose one simple action that you can commit to, and go from there. And then that can kind of snowball in a good way that make a really big impact on your health. So I'm going to turn it back to Jeremy now. We'll get to cooking the rest of the meal.
Thanks again, Megan. Welcome back to the kitchen, you guys. And I just want to say too, like wherever you are in your wellness journey, why wouldn't we want to optimize and engage our body's innate ability to heal itself and to thrive, right? It seems so simple that it's kind of a no-brainer, right? So anyway, with that, you guys, we're moving forward. So anyway, you can see how much those tomatoes have just completely melted down already. So it happens pretty quickly. And then again, we're going to continue to cook this, simmer this, and it's just going to continue to melt and thicken thanks to the natural pectin that's in the tomatoes and the onion and all of those good things. So next piece, you guys, I have all of the ingredients once again laid out in front of me right here in order to, again, help me be successful. So I do have my panko breadcrumbs right here. Panko are just breadcrumbs. They're called Japanese style breadcrumbs. They're a little bit more coarse. They tend to be the chef's choice in regards to pre-made breadcrumbs, because otherwise the rest of them are all just like powder, right? So there's a little bit of texture here. Now, if gluten is something you're staying away from, leave this out of this recipe, okay? I put it in to bring a little bit of body into this crust or this topping that we're gonna put on it, but you can absolutely get rid of it. If you do get rid of it, also get rid of the avocado oil that's in this as well, because you won't need that, okay? So you can totally make this gluten-free. It's just as good, maybe better, right? Without that, those breadcrumbs as well. So I just want to put that in there. And then I do have my hazelnuts ready to rock and roll here as well. I have my Parmesan cheese. I always say, you guys, if you're gonna do cheese, right? Like, don't hold back. This is not a place to skimp. I always buy my cheese whole, because if it's pre-shredded somewhere, they add the manufacturers add a food grade talc to it as an anti-caking agent. Pre-shredded cheese, it always looks like it has that little dusty of that powder on it, because it does, right? Again, it's gonna help it from sticking back together. You can easily shred your own box grater. We're gonna use a microplane today, and we're using Parmigiano Reggiano. Don't skimp there either. If it's just labeled Parmesan, if it's the pre-shredded powdered stuff, that doesn't count. All right. So if you're going to treat yourself to a little bit of cheese, treat yourself to some cheese. We're going to shred that here very quickly. I have some fresh horseradish here as well. Horseradish is so delicious, you guys. It's a completely underused root, brings beautiful flavor into a dish. It is not the same. Do not buy the stuff in the jar. That's garbage. I'm telling you, I've tried a bunch of different ones. They all have some kind of weird acidic preservative in them. Buy the fresh root. You can find it, you guys. It's going to be up by the other roots, and most markets will have 1, 3, or 5 of them, not a ton of them, but so good. So horseradish here as well. I've got my Dijon mustard ready to rock and roll. I've got my herbs. So herbs is a great way to bring flavor into a dish without overutilization of the salt, fat, sugar, okay? So we've got some chives and we've got some dill ready to go here for me. We're gonna give those a quick chop. I do have another lemon, which we're gonna zest. So lemon zest is a great way to, again, add flavor to something without adding the juice. The juice is gonna make it more acidic. So I might want the lemon essence without making it overly acidic. Use that zest as well, okay? Then I have my salt measured out, and I do have my oil. And again, another disclaimer on the oil, we're gonna add that kind of last, just if it needs to come together. If it looks nice and kind of crumbly so that we can sprinkle it on, we may not even add that oil. So just kind of disclaimer there as well. All right, so we're gonna get ready with our prep here. I have my cheese and I have a microplane. If you don't have a microplane, you should. It's a fantastic tool. It makes anything large, small, okay? Cheeses, we're gonna use it for the cheese, we're gonna use it for the horseradish, and we're gonna use it for the lemon zest. So phenomenal tool. No professional kitchen goes without a microplane. I'm gonna grab my cheese. I stabilize the microplane right in my bowl, and I'm just gonna run the cheese over the microplane. Way easier this way than trying to stabilize the cheese and run the microplane over that. So this is how we do it. Works way, way better this way. And it doesn't take long, and you're gonna have a half a cup. So again, shredding something, very small is gonna make it kind of look big, right? So that's why this little tiny wedge of Parmigiano Reggiano I have here is going to, I'm not even gonna use it all. And we're gonna get our, what do we need? Half a cup, quarter cup, half a cup of cheese. Looking good, and it's just like snow. Look at that. Awesome. Oops, I think I went a little over half a cup. We'll be okay. All right, there we go. Little tap, tap, tap. And our Parmigiano Reggiano is ready to go. Again, Parmesan, cheeses labeled as Parmesan are in the style sort of Parmesan. The only real Parmesan, right, is from Parmigiano Reggiano, right here. The next one is our horseradish, and I have another little prep bowl handy here. We're gonna give this a peel really quick, and I'm gonna work over my trash bowl. And I have my peeler. And we're just gonna, what I do is I peel what I'm gonna use, right? So the best preservative or preserving factor for all foods is gonna be, its own natural skin. So I'm gonna leave it on wherever I can within reason, right? Same deal, microplane goes into the small prep bowl, and we're gonna run the horseradish root right over the top like this. Horseradish is quite aromatic. Again, fresh horseradish is not super aggressive and acidic and harsh like the jarred stuff, okay? Now, if you use enough, you're gonna get a little kick, right? But it's surprisingly kind of soft and mellow in its natural state. And I think we just need a couple tablespoons there, so we're good to go. Little tap, tap with that microplane. Beautiful, and then we're gonna get our lemon zest ready to go here as well. I'm just gonna stabilize right on the cutting board this time. And then for lemon zest, I'm just gonna go one time over that certain part of the lemon, and I'm gonna turn it and move on. I never wanna be going crazy on it, like you see those crazy people on TV do, because you're getting the zest, but you're also getting beneath the zest into the whitish pith down there. And that, my friends, is gonna make our dish bitter. So we always want to just drag the citrus across the rasp or the microplane one time, and then move on to the next area. You can see you can very easily we only want the very outer, bright, colorful portion of that zest. Again, in order to avoid making our dish bitter. I'm just going to add my zest right into my little salt prep bowl right here. They're going to go in at the same time. I don't need to dirty another dish, right? Now, one other little quick modification from the recipe, and you can do it just the way that it's written. I've tested it 100 times. Just basically throw everything into the food processor and pulse it, okay? What I have found, though, over the years is I prefer to give the nuts a little pulse or two first before I add everything else, because they are the most kind of rigid, most dense thing of the ingredients that we're going to put in here. Right? So give them a little jump start over the rest of these more delicate things, okay? So they're gonna go in there just like that. And I'm gonna pop our top on. Okay, and I just use the pulse, the kind of pulsing back and forth. If I turn it on, there we go. So the trick with this is to not run the food processor too long, right? Because then it's just going to get mealy, and I want it to be kind of a little bit lighter, a little fluffy, and so that there's some bigger chunks in there. And there we go. Looks great. You can kind of see what we've got in there. There's still definitely some bigger chunks of nuts in there, but there's a bit of a variety, if you will. All right. So to that, we're going to add our breadcrumbs. We're going to add our Parmesan. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of horseradish. Yeah, that looks right. We're going to add our horseradish. Again, you guys, you can certainly measure everything that you put in here. I'm just kind of winging it, right? I've done this many times before. I'm going to add my Dijon here. Beautiful. We're going to add our salt and our lemon zest. All righty. And then our herbs. So real quickly, you guys, chives and dill here have very tender upper stems, tender and flavorful upper stems. So don't pluck every little, piece off of here. You can pretty much use the whole thing. I might look at the dill and be like, well, this is pretty robust. So I might kind of pull off the lower part of that stem, okay? And I'm just gonna kind of gently roll it into a little log here, kind of, to manage it, okay? And then with my knife, I'm gonna run through it. It doesn't have to be super small. In fact, I prefer it not to be super small for this, because it is gonna go into the food processor here, and it will be made a little bit smaller. Get these herbs, oh my goodness, beautiful. Just the aromas from those herbs are absolutely incredible. And we're gonna give it a little pulse. I did hold back that oil again, right? Give it a little pulse. See where we're at. And oh, my mustard kind of stayed up on the side there. I use my finger, but you might use a soft spatula just to kind of push that down into the body of our little topping here. And I'm gonna add the fat, but I'm gonna add it in the top while it's running. If you can do that, that'll help it distribute a little bit better as well. Beautiful. So why the fat, right? Why is that there? And why am I using it, not using it? The little bit of avocado oil that we added to this, you guys, is just gonna lightly coat those breadcrumbs with that oil. And when it's in the oven, it's gonna help it brown more evenly. Remember I said the only reason for the most part oil is in a food is to affect it, impact it, change it in some way throughout the cooking process. That's why it's here, okay? If it's too dry, the breadcrumb is gonna brown really unevenly. You'll see brown spots and white spots. The oil is here to help that brown more evenly, okay? We have our salmon fillets right here as well. And a little bit of pan spray. I'm gonna take I use an avocado oil pan spray as well. All about the avocado oil. Avocado and olive oil, you guys. Those are the only two you need in your kitchen, all right? According to Chef Jeremy. I'm gonna give the pan a little spray here. You don't need a ton of oil. It shouldn't be dripping. Just a nice light coating there. The salmon is coming over onto the sheet pan. Yes, just like so. Beautiful. I am gonna give it each fillet just a little sprinkle of salt here. We don't need much because there is salt and flavoring components in the breadcrumb here as well. Alrighty, and then the breadcrumbs going on. Now again, this recipe makes enough so that you'll have kind of some leftovers too. I always like to, when I do things like this, make sure that I have some leftovers for these delicious things. Spread it or kind of sprinkle it on there and then maybe pat it, spread it out a little bit. Just beautiful. If some of it falls off, it's okay. It's just kind of gonna happen. A little pat down to ensure that we have just a nice coating on top of that beautiful piece of salmon. Yeah, nice, you know, as even as you can, of course, as well with the coating, the addition of the crumble on top here. Beautiful. And I'm not, you know, I'm not smashing it on there either. Just a slight little tap. I don't know if you can see. Awesome. Beautiful. And I've used probably almost half of it. Okay. And I had to taste it, you guys. It's so good. Those herbs, the cheese, absolutely delicious. This guy going in the oven. Okay. So fish is in. Tomato jam is working. Oh my goodness. Just beautiful. It's thickening up, staying nice and chunky for me, just the way that I like it. Okay, so finally, you guys, we have our zucchini noodles that we're gonna make, and I have 4 just kind of medium zucchinis. There's all different ways that you can get here as well. There's this little tool here that's like a pencil sharpener. You kind of run the fruit into that. I don't love this one personally. There's an attachment for a KitchenAid that is really, really nice if you're doing a whole lot. And then there's this guy as well, which is just kind of a hand crank here. And that's the one that we're going to use tonight. You can also, in your market, you can buy pre-made zucchini noodles and carrot noodles and squash noodles and all these things in quart containers. So that is an option as well. We are going to use my awesome tool here. And all I'm going to do, you guys, is just trim both ends just to remove that rounded part and kind of square it up a little bit. Beautiful. And you can do this recipe as well with any of those other like pre-made vegetable noodles as well. They'll all work here. Now, the thing that's really awesome about this, and I know Megan touched on this as well, is it's a, you know, it's a noodle. Some of us are really into the pasta, and so it can kind of help satisfy that craving, but it's not what we call an empty, or what I call an empty carbohydrate. Yes, there's carbohydrate here, but there's also nutrients that come with it as well. The empty carbs, the pasta, the traditional pastas, the breads, the rices, things like that aren't bringing a whole lot of other nutrients with them. So great option here as well. And then I have a bowl handy here to catch my zoodles. And so we're just gonna move this guy out. Here is this little skewer that is gonna go right through the center, or as through the center as possible for me. And then it's gonna go right up against the blade here. This guy slides over, the teeth grab onto the zucchini, and we're just gonna, oops, it goes over here. Look at that. And we're gonna crank this guy, and it's gonna make all of these wonderful, amazing zucchini noodles. Get my hand out of the way so you can see. Beautiful. And so you can see in quick work, or in very little time, we can make our noodles or our zoodles ready to rock and roll. So in this, we're just gonna get rid of, and we'll move on. Where'd my skewer? Oh, there's the skewer. We'll move on to the next one. All righty. The biggest challenge with this one, to be honest with you guys, is getting that skewer as centered into that thing as possible. There we go. And crank it out. Crank it out. Yeah, I feel like I need some tunes in the kitchen. You guys cook with music? Woo. Professional kitchens, always, you guys, right? There's always going to be tunes cranking in the kitchen while we're working. Just makes it more fun, right? We've got 2 more zucchinis. The other thing you can see is, the zucchinis, once you noodle them, they turn into a lot. Like it kind of turns into a lot. We've got almost a full bowl here already. All righty. Right down the middle, flat down there. I'm gonna take a peek at our fish here real quick. You guys, if you're cooking along, take a look. We always, oh my gosh, you guys, I can't even tell you how beautiful mine looks. That guttural, oh my gosh, was real. That was, that was not put on. They look absolutely stunning. Like, things like this that are roasting, check them early, check them often, you guys, right? I can always cook them more. I can never uncook the fish. Once it's overcooked, it's dried and mealy and not good, right? So we're gonna pull these out. We're gonna take a peek. It's beautiful. And this oil did exactly as it was supposed to. You can see our breadcrumbs on there are beautifully browned, okay? Now, how do I know it's done? You can either take an internal temperature with a probe thermometer, okay? And for fish, we wanna hit 145. So we can get in there the long way, get as much of the probe in there as possible. And we can see where we're at. The other thing that I'll do is I'll just take a spoon or a fork and just kind of pry the fish open in the thickest part. And if it flakes open easily and I can see in there and it's no longer that bright red color, it's the kind of the soft color, it's done. Raw fish doesn't flake. Cooked fish will flake and allow you to look inside there, okay? And we are at 135 on this one. I'm gonna check one more here. Here we're at about 120. So we're going back in. But again, always best, check it early, right? All right, so tomato jam, and you can see again, you guys, it's getting kind of dry looking. That's what we want. That's the gold. What we're doing here by cooking this, simmering this for a long period of time, is we're cooking all of the water out of the onion and the tomato, the naturally occurring water that just lives there, which is then making it smaller and intensifying the flavor. So it's called reduction, and it's a great way to boost flavor in foods without adding anything else to it. All right, so I have my pan right here. We're gonna saute these guys super fast. We do wanna be super fast as well because, well, it's zucchini, right? And zucchini is a delicate thing. It is a low density, high moisture food. So what that means is when we apply heat to it, it's gonna soften, it's gonna become mushy very fast. So we wanna cook it with a high heat for a very brief period of time, just to make it tender, maybe get a little browning, a slight little caramelization of the natural sugars in the zucchini, and we do that before the inside overcooks and turns to mush, okay? So really important here for this step, preheat that pan. Get it nice and hot. I don't care what any TV personality says, you guys. Extra virgin olive oil is not the place for high heat techniques, okay? That's where our heat resistant avocado oil comes in, all right? So we're gonna add some in here. And again, enough to kind of lightly coat the pan. Don't add just, you know, such a tiny bit that it's not gonna, you know, even be able to do its job. All right, and again, preheat. We must preheat here. If we don't preheat when we're, really what we're doing here is saute. So if we study classic cuisine, this is saute. High heat, short period of time. If we add the food before the pan and the oil is preheated, it's just, the food is gonna wanna kind of soak that oil up. We don't want it to do that, right? Again, oil is here for the function, even cookery, slight browning of our zucchini. All right, so how do I know when my oil is hot? Well, I can kind of feel it with the back of my hand, not the oil, but the air above it, right? That's gonna be a more sensitive part of your body, so you'll be able to feel that heat more easily. Otherwise, I'm gonna look at the oil in the pan, so visually, right? A hot oil is gonna move across the pan more like water, because as it heats up, it loses its viscosity, some of its viscosity, and it's gonna kind of ripple or shimmer as it moves across the pan, just a tiny little bit. So you'll always see me kind of moving the oil across the pan when I'm checking to see if it's hot enough or if it's ready, okay? Lunch is almost on the table here, you guys, and I am incredibly excited. Okay, oil is nice and hot. I'm on a strong medium here. At home, on my range at home, it depends on the range, they're all different. I'd probably be on high, like as high as it goes right now. All right, here we go. We're going in with the zucchini. And we're gonna spread it out. It's really all about contact with the bottom of the pan. I want as much of the zucchini noodles touching the bottom of the pan as possible, okay? And then we're gonna give it a little sprinkle of salt, just a little, and we're gonna leave it alone. We have to leave it alone. In order for this to cook properly, I can't be in here constantly tossing and turning and moving this. We've gotta leave it alone. Now, as the zucchini cooks, it's gonna kind of start to fall in the pan a little bit. It's gonna soften up and just start to fall. So with my tongs, I'm just gonna kind of move it a little bit, and it's starting to fall into the pan and allow other parts of the zucchini to now touch the bottom of the pan. Beautiful. As green things cook, like zucchini, the chlorophyll in the skin it actually starts to pop. It becomes very bright and vibrant. And again, adds to the visual appeal of our dish, right? Our zucchini noodles, I'm gonna give them a little toss. I'm gonna grab them, kind of turn them over. Try to get the ones that were on the top, on the bottom. We're gonna pull that fish, you guys. Again, I don't wanna overcook it. Look at that. Just gorgeous. That's ready to rock and roll. Feel free, take another temp if you need. We're ready to plate, you guys, okay? My zucchini noodles have sort of, again, fallen into the pan a little bit, but if I wanna try one, grab a little piece out, try it. It should still have a little bit of texture to it. The total cook time should not be more than, I would say, like 2 minutes maximum, okay? So we're gonna plate. I'm gonna take a little snarl of my zucchini noodles here. Yeah, a little or as much as you want. Maybe you're hungry. Right, now's the time to treat yourself with the healthy foods, right? Don't skimp on those. And I'm just gonna kind of make a little nest in the center of my plate here with those guys. And then my fish is going on top of that. My goodness. There we go. Take this one right here. Yeah. Awesome. That's gonna go right on top, just like that. And then my tomato jam, you take a nice dollop of that. It's gonna go right on top of that fish there as well. Holy smokes, look at that. Get a nice dollop on there. These are foods we should not feel bad or feel guilt, right, about eating. So there's that. And then if you want as well, we might take a little bit of parsley. Got got some parsley leaves back here. It says chopped in the recipe. You can certainly do that. Otherwise, I want to show you one more little trick. If you have a kitchen shears, you might just kind of make a little bouquet of those herbs and then just give them a little clip right over the plate. Coarsely chopped herbs are very trendy right now. They're beautiful. And there you have it. There you go, you guys. There's our dish. I'm gonna come around. I'm gonna grab that camera. I'm gonna zoom in for you guys so you can get a nice close look at this beautiful, nutritious, and healing dish. Check that out. I don't know about you all. I cannot wait to eat that. Guys, I hope you had a great time. I hope you either cooked along or intend to cook this in the near future. And I would love to hear how it goes for you. That is my piece. You guys, Chef Jeremy, thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with me. I had a great time. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves, and I will see you later. Megan?
Yeah, wow, Jeremy, that looks delicious and super nutritious. And just looking at that, all I could think about was look at all those colors. That's what we want, a colorful plate, right? And lots of anti-inflammatory fats in there. Just thinking of reviewing that, we have the salmon, which gives you those anti-inflammatory omega-3s. You have the zoodles, which are going to give you good fiber and vitamin C and A, tomato and garlic and onion. There's so many benefits to the tomato that I didn't even mention, the lycopene in there, and helping reduce cancer, not to mention flavor. So it's definitely fitting with our phytonutrient dense foods. I am excited to make this myself, and thank you for being here tonight.
Wow, you guys, that was a absolutely awesome session. I don't know about you guys, but I am starving and I already had dinner. It looks so good. So thank you so much, Chef Jeremy. And Megan is hanging out here to answer your questions. So she has the questions that have been coming through. So Megan, I will let you take it away and answer some of those questions that have been coming in.
So thank you for having me on here tonight. And it's really nice to just connect with this group. I did have some questions that were sent to me previously. So just 3 questions that I know somebody had sent in when they signed up. So the first question that somebody had sent in was, what are safe foods for triple positive breast cancer patients? I've been told to avoid beans and soy. And then somebody else had asked about soy, and that is a common question, of course, that I get. And so I'm going to start out by saying foods to focus on. There's really one food category that I recommend for cancer patients and cancer survivors, and really it's good for everybody, but I'm guessing you might be able to guess, and I know not everybody gets excited about it, but it's cruciferous vegetables. And so that's going to be broccoli, kale, arugula, what am I forgetting? Bok choy, kohlrabi, Brussels sprouts, collard greens. I can definitely, actually, there's a list of them in the slides that I'm going to send right over after this so they can get sent out to you all. That will have the list of the foods that are the cruciferous vegetables. And so answering the question of what are foods that are good, I like to focus on what to enjoy more of, right? Because nutrition focuses a lot on what not to eat, but I want you to think about what to eat and think about what you enjoy, okay? And so thinking of this category, if there's any of those foods that you like, add more of those in regularly. And then the second part of that question was about soy. And actually, I'm going to get to that in a minute here. But the other part was about collagen. And so they said, are collagen supplements safe? And first off, there's so many supplements out there, and supplements aren't regulated the same as, say, like medications, right? And so you just want to be careful whenever you're choosing supplements to choose ones that are third-party lab tested. You know, they'll say on the bottle either third-party lab tested, or they'll have a certified stamp on there. So you know that it's been tested and there's not a bunch of fillers in there, and they actually have some of the nutrients that they say they have. You can also get medical grade supplements through practitioners and stores too, okay? But with collagen, you just want to be careful. The research is pretty mixed with breast cancer and collagen. At least the person who had sent this question in specifically mentioned breast cancer. But I would not use a collagen supplement if you are a breast cancer survivor. Yet there's just not enough research saying that it's not that it's nothing to worry about. And so just get collagen from foods. So that would be eating like animal foods, or eating good variety of plant foods to help support that. So any of those phytonutrient foods would be great to help support collagen. And then also like eggs and poultry and good quality sources of those. Okay, so I'm looking at my list here. So we have ag cruciferous veggies. We're going to look at the list, but focus on enjoying your food, right? I know that's something that just to share, my mom is a 3-time cancer survivor. And one of the things that I feel like learned from all of those times of her having cancer is like, let's enjoy life. And I bet you all have, you know, maybe you've noticed that, but we don't want to eat foods that we don't enjoy. Right? Let's enjoy the foods. So just choose the ones that you like from what I'm suggesting, and always go with that. And then collagen, just be careful. If you are a breast cancer survivor, don't use the supplements right now, use foods. And if you are using any supplements, check that they're third-party lab tested. And then we'll get to soy here. So with soy, of course, the messages out there used to be like, no soy ever, avoid soy at all costs, because they thought there was a correlation with any form of soy. But really, now the recommendation from the American Cancer Society too, and just looking at the research, is really to have a moderate amount. And so whenever I hear moderate, I'm like, what the heck does that even mean, right? It means 1 to 2 servings a day of non-processed forms. And so that means, you know, again, no processed soy supplements. Wouldn't do a soy protein powder or soy protein bars. Check, because a lot of protein bars out there will have that in there. But you can do minimally processed, like doing tofu or tempeh, edamame beans. What am I forgetting? You can do like an organic soy milk. That won't have a lot of fillers in it and stuff. So 1 to 2 servings a day. If you want soy food, if you don't want it, that's okay. But the research is really showing that it's not going to be harmful in a small amount, as long as it's not the processed form. Okay, and then one other question that I had seen on there that was sent to me previously was, the person said they were trying to gain muscle back. They lost a lot of muscle, right? And that's a common thing that happens when we go through treatment, or just with the process with cancer, because we're burning more calories, right? Your body is fighting, burning more calories, and going through major treatment. So this person had asked, what can they do for exercise, and how many grams of protein do they need? And I can't answer specifically to that person. Definitely check with your doctor about exercise and what they recommend. Of course, you guys saw in those slides to, just move more, right? It could be putting your favorite music on and dancing around the living room, the house, the kitchen, just getting up, moving more. With strength training, depending on what you did before, start slow and maybe just start with body weight movements, and then you can add weights later. And definitely though, check with your physician, and then maybe work with a trainer for a little bit of time just to do safe movements, especially depending on your type of cancer. And then protein wise, You could, safely you can calculate the amount that you need. And so this is going to be kind of bare minimum. We want to get 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight daily. So what does that mean? So if we take our body weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2, and then calculate that by 0.8. Okay, and what does it mean then for grams at a meal, right? Or say you need 50 grams a day or 80 grams a day. One way to think about that, when we think of meat or animal foods, the palm of your hand, that's about 3 ounces for those foods. 1 egg is 3 ounces is 21 grams. So you get 21 grams from like a chicken breast or something, or whatever you can eat depending on your appetite. And then 1 egg gives you 7 grams of protein. Of course, plants are giving you protein too. Those cruciferous veggies even have some protein in them. Okay, so you can calculate the needs or try to get protein at every meal and snack. Okay, and those slides will have some examples of protein foods that you can look at. You just want to have that consistently to help build muscle, and definitely having it consistently throughout the treatment. Okay, I think that's all my notes that I had written beforehand. So now I want to look at the chat, and I know.
Yeah, hey Megan, it's Lissa.
Very talkative, so I know we don't have too much time, but I can definitely look at these after too, and put responses in the email for you to send out to them.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was going to say. Thank you. So thank you so much, Megan. We are at 7:15 and want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we will graciously thank you and Jeremy both for being a part of our evening and sharing so much wonderful knowledge with us. So thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you. And I just want to share, I'll look at these questions, get back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Megan. So thank you again so much, everyone. Have a wonderful night.